You've just got to do more of what does work and less of what doesn't. It's a really simple truth that will get you a long way. However, in the modern world, a lot of people struggle with this, excluding the most successful amongst us. So in this week's upload, I'm going to share with you some simple hacks that will show you how you can get more done in less time, stop wasting resources that you have available to you now, and keep your productivity on track every single day. It's going to be a useful video, much like most of our recent uploads, so if at any point you find it interesting or useful, please tap the like button down below. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 different apps that I personally use. The 4th one drives me nuts on a daily basis, although it's one of the most useful ones that I've found out there. So if there's one thing you get from this video, make sure you check that one out later on and give it a go for yourself. Okay, so the first point that I mentioned was increasing the amount you do in the limited time that you have. It's very simple. It's a lot harder to do in practice than in theory. So this is why I want to introduce you to an app that I use called Momentum. It's a very simple app. It's free. You can download it on the Chrome store, providing you use Chrome. I'm not too sure about other browsers. And it gives you a simple screen where it sets reminders on a daily basis so you can be specific and defined about the things that you need to do on that day. Now, why is this different to having a traditional to-do list? I've tried those in the past too. They can be useful to a degree, but you end up with scraps of paper everywhere. If you want to rearrange things, rejig them, it's a lot harder and it's not so easy to get focused. Plus, if you watched last week's upload, I spoke about prompts and the behavioural cycle. It constantly prompts you inside your browser, which is probably the main place that most people work, presuming you work on a computer. And it just prompts you every single time you open the browser. This is your to-do list. As long as you're filling that out and giving yourself a defined to-do list, which is a large part of the problem, being productive, is knowing what you're doing and where you're going, and also setting yourself a time limit, which we'll come on to in a second. But knowing where you're going, defining the goal or the short-term goals, the long-term goals, which then build up into longer-term goals, is really important. But the Momentum app will allow you to do that for free inside your browser, and it will consistently prompt you to do the things that you should be doing. If you don't, then it's all on you, just ignoring those prompts. Now, a little bonus tip that I use, some people have noticed it in previous videos in the background, I never spoke about it before, but I use a cooking timer, or egg timer, whatever you want to call it, for the kitchen. And sometimes, or most of the time, I set myself a time limit for certain tasks, put that on the side and set it off. Now, what that does is it just forces me into taking action a little bit more. So that is my first productivity tip. Use Momentum, be defined, know where you're going, set yourself targets that are definable and clear, and then give yourself a time to complete them in. I know it seems very simple, rudimentary and basic, and it is, but the next ones that we're going to come on to are far more effective, but I thought it was important to get that housekeeping out of the way first. So the next thing that I wanted to highlight is the fact that successful people do not waste time. They're very efficient with their time. It's the one thing that we all have a limited amount of, and no matter how wealthy or poor that you are, we have the same amount of time each day. Just look at the world's most wealthy people. In fact, a fun little thing to do on the side is look up wealthy and successful people that you consider to be highly productive and see what's happening online in terms of social media with them. Now, some of these will have people managing their social media channels, undoubtedly, but a lot of them don't even bother. So for example, we take Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors. He follows nobody on Twitter. He's had a total of 10 tweets over the lifetime of his account, and the last tweet was more than 4 years ago. Peter Thiel's another person I've looked up to in the past, and you'll find that he follows nobody on Twitter. There's one tweet from his account, and that was to promote a book when he released it some time ago. And a slightly older billionaire that I find interesting, because all of these people are billionaires, John Paul DeJoria, has actually said previously in the past, I've seen various interviews, where he will not have a phone or an email address, and he certainly won't have a smartphone. If he does have a phone, it's an old-fashioned flip phone. So these people are obviously fully aware that a lot of these channels and stuff online is just noise, and they will not waste their time on it. Now, I'm not suggesting that you give up all of those things. Not everybody's going to want to do that, but you should at least start tracking how much time you spend on these different places. And it can be other places like YouTube too. So, I'm giving you genuine advice here. Maybe you might want to consider how many YouTubes you're watching each day. And a great tool to use, productivity wise, to make it easier for you to do that, is Web Time Tracker. It's a free Google extension, again in Google Chrome store. You can download that, forget about it, check it periodically later on in the week, and you'll find that it tells you how much time you spent on each website per day, per week. And a lot of the time the results are quite breathtaking. You'll look at it and you'll go, did I really spend that much time on YouTube? And once you can actually see that, it becomes far easier to recognise that behaviour. Now you can remedy it with some other apps we're going to come on to in a second. It depends largely on what device you're on. I've spoke about some of them in the past, so I'll quickly fire through them. We've got Momentum app, which you can download off the App Store. Will track how much time you spend on your phone, different apps that you spend it on. You can also now do that on the iPhone inside the settings as well. That's a feature they added in a little while back. It's called Screen Time. So use a Screen Time application too. It will break down how much time you're spending on Twitter, Facebook, Insta, spam, all of those different websites. And a lot of people, I think, are quite shocked when they first see that. Now, saying is one thing and doing is another. So I've got some additional apps that I use personally which actually force me not to do that. The first thing I'd suggest is delete those apps on your phone if you don't need them. I've mentioned that previously, and add in apps that are useful to you, such as like health and fitness apps and Strava and stuff like that. But if you do have trouble with this, and a lot of people suffer from this problem, it's a very modern problem. I think not everybody's aware of it just yet. If you're sitting on a desktop, you're working from home or in the office, and you find yourself back on Facebook again, back on Twitter again, you can actually install another Google Chrome extension called Stay Focused. Now this is the fourth one. This is the one that drives me absolute booler in the day, because I will go to different websites like Twitter and it comes up with a notification like this on screen where it says, shouldn't you be focused? You're not going on there, and effectively I've blocked myself. You can set the amount of time that you have per website per day, so it's not as though you are completely blocked in some instances, but you can really control what you've learned previously using apps like Web Time Tracker and the Screen Time app via your iPhone. So Stay Focused is probably my number one recommendation out of the 5 apps on this video, just because it's so useful and it pops up on my screen far too often. Now I've got quite a few websites chucked in there, so you want to take that into consideration too. Now the last one I want to mention is Kill Newsfeed. So a lot of people will undoubtedly use Facebook, and we know that even the term feed, a lot of these social media channels now are literally feeding people the stuff they want to see, which makes you more likely to come back. It goes round in a big behavioural cycle, prompt, craving, reward. It's basically designed to make you more addicted, to make you go back and check that feed, pulling the handle on a slot machine, because you're going to get something different each time and you don't really know. Now, using Kill Newsfeed, very simple Chrome extension again, download, install it, it will just give you a blank newsfeed. So if you do want to find something on Facebook, you just have to search it and look for it yourself, so you only actually see the stuff that you really want and you've gone there for and you're looking for, rather than being prompted to all these different options. Now, one last little bonus thing I would say, other than using the cooking timer, is to set yourself up with some prompts, notifications. You can use things like Google Calendar or the Apple Calendar to send yourself an email when you've got something significant or you've got a deadline. Set deadlines, as I said previously, be defined in the future, and then it will drop you an email and give you a positive notification rather than a negative one, to prompt you to do something on a certain day. So for example, one thing you might want to do with that is subscribe to this channel, set a notification every Friday to check when a new video is uploaded. That's entirely up to you. Another thing that you might want to consider is tweaking your own behavioural cycles, which is mentioned in last week's video up the top here, and we've got another video down here about self-development too. We've got a playlist building up on the channel now, so please go over to the channel page, check them all out, and don't forget to subscribe.